Here we're going to UV three things: the electric pipes, the brackets, and the weatherhead. So let's select the elements we're going to UV. Select this pipe, the bracket, the 90-degree corner pipe, this pipe. We will leave this corner piece and the brackets alone, because we will end up duplicating the UV'd pieces and replacing the non-UV'd ones, saving us some time in the process. Then select these two pipes and one weatherhead at the top. Assign UV grid material to the selected meshes, and then press Ctrl 1 to isolate select. We're going to begin with the weatherhead. So select it, and let's try automatic unwrap, see what that does. And that's not going to be very useful for us. So instead, let's project on Z axis. Select all the faces and project on Z. This looks like a mess, but we'll make it work. Switch over to Edge Component mode, and we're going to select the edges where we want to make a texture seam. So we're going to cut along edges to separate various shells so we can unwrap this properly. Double click on this edge to select Continuous Edge Loop and make a cut. Then also make a cut along this edge and along this outer edge. Then also select these individual edges on each side and cut them. It will make the side shell unwrap better. Now we want to begin separating all the shells. Switch over to UV component mode and begin to double click to select all the UVs within the shell and move them out. Looks like we missed a continuous edge loop here on the bottom. So let me quickly undo and select these continuous edges and cut. And now we can begin to separate them. So you can either switch over to UV component mode, then double click on a UV. This will select the shell, or switch over to shell component mode and separate each shell to give them some space. We can now focus on unwrapping each of these shells. We're going to begin with the stop rounded weatherhead shape. Select all the faces and let's run unfold. This is pretty good start. We have some distortion right in the middle of the shell. So let's select these UVs and try unfold along U and V. And that doesn't really do a good job. So we're going to fix this manually. With just the inner UVs selected, I'm going to scale them in or out while paying attention to the UV grid in order to minimize the distortion. That way we don't affect the UVs on each corner, and we only focus to fix the UVs that are distorted in the middle of the shell. And then for the center of the shell, I'm just going to move each half of the UVs closer in until we remove most of the distortion. And that looks pretty good. And I think I'm spending way too much time for such a small shell that will not be seen by the player. So let's move on to the other pieces. For this shell, I'm going to try unfold, and that doesn't give us good results. So I'm going to undo, and let's run unfold along U and V. And V gives us the best results. Let's move it off to the side, and we are done with the shell. Let's select the next shell, and try unfold along V, which doesn't look good, but unfold along U looks great. And now we're done with the shell. For this shell, neither unfold works, but unfold by itself works great. So you can see the process that I'm using, where I'm only applying unfold or unfold along U and V, and seeing which one gives us the best results. For the very last shell, we're going to apply unfold along V, and we are done UVing the weatherhead. Let's select all the UVs and set textile density. Then arrange all these shells better. We're going to move them down here on the bottom until we get everything else done. Next, we're going to UV the pipes. The straight pipes are very simple to unwrap. The process is select the faces, and project along X or Z for the vertical pipes. Then switch over to Edge Component mode and select an edge where you want to make a cut. This is where a texture seam would be, and it's ideal to place this somewhere where the player won't see. So in that case, this edge is going to be selected where it's facing the wall, and then inside the UV editor, choose Cut. Then select the shell, choose Unfold. This will give us very good results, but we want the shell to be straight, and for this, use Straighten Shell. And that's it. This gives us perfect UVs for the cylindrical pipes, and we're going to repeat this process for every single straight pipe. Let's move these two shells out of the way and set textile density. Now select this pipe and run through the steps. Select the faces, project on X or Z, select the edge where you want to have a texture seam, cut, select the UVs, unfold, straighten shell, set textile density, and move it out of the way. For this horizontal pipe, same steps apply, except that we're going to project on Y instead of X or Z, and then just run through the same steps. For the 90-degree corner piece, we're going to do this a little later. We want to finish all the straight pipes first. So for this last straight pipe, let's run through the same steps as before. Alright, now that we have all straight pipes unwrapped, let's stack and overlap a few of these shells on top of each other. I'm going to select the 3 smaller shells and choose Stack Shells. The rest of the shells are going to be separate, especially the 2 pipes that are next to each other, just to prevent texture repetition. Let's organize these shells better, and we are done with the straight pipes. Let's unwrap the 90-degree pipe. The method is going to be the same. Select the faces and project on X or Z. Choose the edge where you want to have a texture seam and make a cut. Then select the UVs and click on Unfold. This will give us pretty good results. I'm going to try Unfold along U and V just to see if it improves our unwrap. And in this case it did not. So running Unfold is what we're going to keep. I'm going to orient the shell better so the numbers are aligned correctly. And then set textile density. And our 90-degree piece is done. Let's position it within and next to the straight pipes. Last thing we need to UV is the bracket. Select all of its faces and apply automatic unwrap. We're going to overlap similar shells, but first we need to rotate the shell so it's oriented the same way. Select the UVs, rotate 180 degrees, then select the UVs for both shells and click on Stack Shells. We then want to move and sew so all of these separate shells become one shell. Switch over to Edge Component mode, and in Perspective View we're going to select the edges where the shells are broken up. Hold Shift to add to a selection, and then inside UV Editor, hold Shift, right click, hold, and choose Move and Sew. Do this for all of the edges until you have one continuous UV shell. We also have faces here in the back that the player will not see. We want to select them and delete. I'm going to rotate all these shells 90 degrees so they're oriented correctly and set textile density. We can now position the bracket shells within the electric pipe layout here on the bottom. Let's quickly reposition some of these UVs a bit better. Now select all the objects and delete history. Alright, we're almost done with this. Press Ctrl 1 to bring back everything into view, and then grab the UVs we just worked on and position them within our temporary UV layout. Now we need to replace the non-UV'd pieces with UV'd ones. This includes the 90-degree corner piece, the weatherhead, and the brackets. Select the 90-degree corner pipe, duplicate it, Ctrl D, and move it over for to replace the other pipe. We're going to rotate it 180 degrees and then snap it to the grid, making sure that's in the exact same position as the non-UV pipe. And then select that pipe and delete it. Make sure to double check that the 90-degree piece is positioned correctly, that it's snapped to the other two pipes, and that there are no gaps. Let's quickly replace the weatherhead, duplicate it, move it over so it's on top of the other one, and then delete the non-UV'd one. And now let's finish up with the brackets. I'm going to move this bracket up so it's hiding the texture seam between the straight pipe and the 90-degree pipe. Then let's duplicate it, rotate it 90 degrees, and snap it to the grid. It's very important that this bracket is snapped to the grid and aligned with the pipe correctly. And because we kept everything on the grid and we worked with our pivot points, it should align perfectly. And then we want to position this bracket so it also overlaps where the 90-degree pipe and the straight pipe meet. So let's go ahead and continue to duplicate this bracket, deleting the non-UV'd one and replacing them all along these pipes. For the second pipe, in order to position the bracket correctly so it's aligned with the pipe, I had to lower the grid to 1. Then snap the bracket, it will align perfectly, and then we can reset the grid back to 10. And now we are done UVing another piece of geometry.